If you're a student, you have a couple of unique advantages that make it a lot easier to start and then scale an AI-based business model. What I want to do in this video is I want to explain those to you and show you how to make $10,000 a month or more as a student using AI. Now, there are three main reasons why I think students are significantly better positioned than most other people right now. The first is that, contrary to what your teachers will tell you, knowledge is no longer the bottleneck. In the past, knowledge used to be the bottleneck. If you wanted to be compensated highly for a service or product, you would have to know a lot about services and or products in the domain that you were trying to sell them in. Nowadays, what's less important is the knowledge that you know, and what's more important is your ability to learn that knowledge. Now, in your case, you are most probably young, you probably learn quickly, and you have probably grown up with all of this technology. You've heard of inklings of artificial intelligence since you were a kid, most likely. Many of you are probably still kids and are just on the come up, natively learning about how all this tech works, and basically like the critical period where humans tend to cement most of these skills. And you're also literally in the student mindset. I can't overstate how valuable this is. The older that you get, the less of your time you spend learning things. Where you are right now, you're probably spending like literally half of all of your waking time learning things. So just the fact that you are in that student mindset already propels you significantly further ahead than most people. There's a reason why so many of the world's like best and brightest companies started out of fevered dreams of 19, 20, 21-year-olds. Whether you're younger, whether you're older than that, let me run you through exactly how you can leverage that same potential in the AI business model. Okay, so first thing to know is that AI is not about passive income. What it is highly leveraged consulting in a nutshell, okay? Consulting is helping businesses do things better for the most part, and what we're doing with leveraged consulting is we're using AI tools to allow us to produce much larger multiples on our time. If this doesn't make sense to you, I'm just gonna pull up a little graph over here. If you're a student, you probably see this sort of stuff all the time. What I'm gonna do is, let's just say money on the left-hand side, okay? This is the amount of money that you generate doing stuff, and then this is some combination of time or effort. So if you continue down your student path, and you should, of course, and I don't know, get out of school and then get a job or something like that, paying a certain amount of money, this is more or less what it's going to look like for you. You're going to put in a certain number of units of time and effort, and you're going to get, in response, a certain number of units of money. But notice the slope of that line. Notice how this line is sort of shaped. It's pretty low to the ground, right? What this means in a nutshell, if you're unfamiliar with this sort of thing, is that you're putting in disproportionately more time and effort relative to the money that you get. Now, a more reasonable thing would be something like this, where there's basically a one-to-one relationship. If you just look at how I'm manipulating this little graph here, there's basically like a one-to-one relationship here between the amount of time and effort that we put in and then the result that we get. Okay, and this is what a lot of people consider the dream, to be honest, to be compensated proportionally for the time and the effort that you put in. Well, the AI leverage consulting business model is kind of more like this, okay? So per unit time or effort, you're going to be producing outsized multiples on the work that you put in. But what most AI gurus and other people are probably trying to sell you right now is something like this, which is physically impossible. It is passive income. It's the idea that you spend no time and effort, then you produce a ton of money in response. So my recommendation for you right off the bat is avoid this. This is impossible for the most part. You can't really make passive income unless you just have a ton of money and you're investing it in some sort of passive diversified portfolio. Better to instead produce highly leveraged outcomes, 10x the speed at most other people. And then to avoid the path that so many of you are unfortunately being pushed down at breakneck speed right now, to get into some sort of like very low paying job that rewards you very little bit per unit time spent, okay? So this is what you want. This is what's realistic. I and many other people do this. I scaled my AI automation agency to $72,000 a month. I still had to spend time doing it, but per unit time, I made way more money than in any job that I've ever had. So how does all of this stuff actually work now that I've sort of sold you on the idea? Any successful AI business just solves real business problems and produces a measurable return on investment. It doesn't just involve the use of AI tools, and it most certainly doesn't involve the usage of AI tools to like create digital products and then put them up and run some sort of automated ad funnel. If you guys are beginners, you can't do this. And if you guys are students, you probably have no idea how the economy works. So avoid this as much as humanly possible. Most AI money-making content right now is pretty misleading, and it targets desperate people with unrealistic promises. I say desperate people as in like people that are like one paycheck away from being evicted or kicked out of their house. I've seen how this industry sells this golden ticket sort of dream to people that, to be honest, should most definitely be steering clear of that at a certain point in their life. But believe it or not, that's why I think students are so great, because most students are not desperate. They're in a position where they have a free available time to learn for the most part. And they're usually in some sort of financial position where they have support from the school, support from people around them, their friends, support from their family members. And so Instead of, you being one of the many desperate people that are trying to make this work and I have to make this work and if this doesn't work, I'm being evicted tomorrow, which is no position to be under if you want to like start an actual sustainable, successful business. You guys aren't there. And I think there's a lot of growth potential because of it. Okay. So in addition to that, my recommendation for you, and one thing I'll show you how to do, is to avoid oversaturated low value applications and then focus on the implementation. And then finally, you just need to understand that AI is a tool. It's a tool like any other tool, okay? At the end of the day, AI is a tool. It delivers business outcomes, but it's not a magical money generating black box. You don't just have a chat agent that you can type in, make me a ton of money, and then it goes on the internet and makes you a ton of money. Because think about it logically. If you could do that with your chat agent, then everybody else could probably do that with their chat agent. Unless you're the one that's responsible for creating the technology, which you aren't, you have no inherent advantage. You're just a user of a tool. So here's some red flags, things to stay away from on your AI money-making journey. If anybody promises you significant amounts of income with minimal skill development or effort, be very wary of that. In reality, okay, there's no passive income here. You are never, ever going to be in this position on the left. It's always going to be some sort of time or effort put in. And all that cool business models like AI automation or leverage consulting allow you to do is just change the slope of that line so it gets more and more and more vertical. But you can't go entirely vertical. If there's no explanation on how to acquire clients or deliver consistent value, I'd stay away from that because business owners can sniff this stuff out in a heartbeat. If the money-making thing has you focus on selling the outputs of AI, which are usually just text or images rather than the actual business outcomes that they help, be very wary of that because since, again, AI is a tool, all tools can produce these text or images. You're going to be competing with a billion other people that can do the exact same thing, with maybe the only difference being a little prompt that they have that you don't have. But a prompt is just a few characters, right? Anybody can put together a prompt. And as we see now, people are jailbreaking and leaking prompts all the time. And then, just avoid the whole set and forget it income stream. Passive income is not the AI automation business model. AI automation is not a passive income model. So this over here on the left is bad. Unrealistic AI money methods give you low value. They get very quickly saturated. It's a race to the bottom. You make no money. You might make money for like a month. You might make $5,000 or something. But the rush of people that get into stuff like this is just so extraordinary. And the relative skill level required to sell the products or services that they're creating with these AI tools is just so low that with that low barrier to entry, basically nothing happens. Instead, what you want to do is you want to focus on the implementation of some sort of service that solves real world problems, delivers real business ROI, gives you measurable results, and then gives you sustainable income. So how do you actually do that? Well, the best AI business model for students is starting with a very small investment, working around your class schedule, and then bootstrapping growth through incremental and iterative means. What is your actual work? What do you actually do? Well, basically, you drag and drop simple programming analogs like make.com. It's a big one right now, or N8N. And you use this to do things like you automate the sending of emails. When your teachers or professors send you emails or whatever, what you do is you help automate the triggering of these emails simply using a drag and drop tool like make.com. So what is make.com, for instance? Make.com is just a bunch of Lego blocks that do stuff on the internet. And this is what the interface looks like. Your job as an AI automation person is basically to be clicking this big purple button and then having some sort of trigger that does something like maybe it sends an email. And what you do is you implement a little bit of logic so that when a business has something happen, maybe they sign a deal, what you do is you have it shoot out an email to the client of that business with maybe some onboarding information or something. Okay. Onboarding obviously being, hey, welcome aboard to the team. We're super excited to have you. Here's a bunch of info that you need in order to make something happen. So the process of you building this is what makes you money. And then also the process of you knowing what to build to who is also another thing that makes you a lot of money. Make.com costs $10 a month on the core plan, $18 a month on the pro plan, $34 a month on the teams plan. Another example of a tool you could use for this is N8N. This is gaining a ton of popularity right now, though it's a little bit more technically complex. So if you're a student that's never done stuff like this before, I might avoid this in lieu of Make. But same sort of idea, you can have a trigger of some kind when, you get some sort of new deal signed. What do? You actually do stuff with it. You pump it into some sort of AI text classifier that then classifies the email into a bunch of categories. And then, you call OpenAI and do something fun with it. This is what an actual AI automation that makes money looks like. This is what people are currently using to make money in the AI and automation space. So this is ultimately what you want to do, okay? Simple AI automations for small businesses using no-code drag and drop tools. This is the opportunity. What it's not is you're not actually building an AI model. What you're doing is you're using tools that other people have built just to make business owners' lives a little bit easier. So there's a massive demand right now from small to medium-sized businesses that can't afford traditional AI consulting. And I think that's why, honestly, there's such an opportunity for young students. If you are a young student, people are going to assume that you already understand a lot of this technology because you grew up with it, as I mentioned to you before. And if you're targeting this market of small to mid-sized businesses that can't afford traditional AI consulting from a big firm like McKinsey or Deloitte that, I don't know, charges like $700 an hour, you could probably definitely work with some student that might be fresh out of school or recently is bootstrapping a business, providing services for maybe $100 an hour or something like that. You can definitely make more money than 99% of everybody else that you know doing this. Now, hourly isn't the perfect way to price this, and I'll tell you about that later. But yeah, this is just a quick and easy example of ways that you can slot into a need in the market right now, and why I think students are pretty solid people to provide that solution. So businesses can pay anywhere from $1,500 to $10,000 for solutions, and these solutions can take hours to build. I mean, I talk about the hourly model over here, and instead of charging based off of the time that you spend doing something, it's much better to charge off the value that you provide, which in my other videos talk quite a bit about value-based pricing, the ROI formula. Just check yesterday's video if you want an example of that. But really, I mean, think about it. Like, you're kind of at like this fork in the road. This is like the traditional path up here. I'm not trying to sell you on not staying in school or whatever, okay? But up above is the traditional path. Even if you go to some highly claimed, extraordinarily hard path, like trying to become a medical doctor, an investment banker or something, you might still make $150 an hour as the cap. And you're not going to make that money for another 15, 20 years, okay? If you go down sort of like the modern path to money, what you can do is you could sell a $2,000 automation in 5 hours. And if you do that, mathematically, now you're making $400 an hour. And instead of you having to do this after, 10 years in school and $30,000 of debt, you could sell something like this in 2 weeks from now with $0 of debt. Pretty cool, huh? I think if you just look at the possible futures attainable right now, assuming you're willing to experiment with something that maybe your friends, your family members, or the people in your school aren't familiar with, if you're willing to be somebody that doesn't follow that traditional path right now, the potential outsized return is huge, and you can make just a boatload of money. You have the ability to undercut traditional consultants while still making exceptional hourly rates. I don't recommend a race to the bottom, but you can undercut traditional consultants. Traditional consultants charge like $500 an hour, as I mentioned, at one of these firms. If you get by with $100 an hour, you're probably not going to deliver as much value as they will, but I don't think it's a 5x difference in value. I think you're probably going to deliver half as much value they do for like a fifth of the price. And then you also have a fresh perspective on tech because you're young with basically no overhead costs, hence you being able to move nimbly. This is a little SOP. I'm just trying to show the same idea in as many different formats as possible just to make it stick. So what you do is you find a small business problem, you build a simple automation, deliver measurable results, charge $1,500 to $10,000, and then what you do is you scale by templating it, which we'll get into in a moment. Okay, so what is all this stuff called as a student? It's called a minimum viable business. If you've never heard of this before, you're going to see acronyms like MVP all the time. That stands for minimum viable product. There's MVB, minimum viable business. There's MVS, minimum viable service. I'm just framing all this under the umbrella of minimum viable business. How do you actually do this as a student? If this is you, looks kind of like Aaron from Attack on Titan in the modern world. Very interesting. You defined 3 specific niches to focus your efforts on initially. I've published videos where I show people the top 3 best AI automation agency niches in 2025. I'll make sure to link that in the video. But what I want you to do is just pick 3 niches. There are a million billion potential niches you could pick 3 of them. They don't have to be the ones that I talk about in the video, but they're reasonable places to get started. Then take your $100 of lunch money that you've saved up for 2 weeks and get a couple of tools. The first tool to get is make.com. If you're a total beginner, get make.com. The second tool to get is sign up to the OpenAI API. This is a simple and straightforward way to start communicating with large language models on like a per usage basis, not just through ChatGPT or whatever you're currently using in school. The third thing that you should look into is get a scraping platform like Apify. If you're unfamiliar with Apify, it's one of the ones I haven't shown you so far. What this is basically just a marketplace where people build scrapers for particular data sources and then put them up here. And this is really where a large portion of the automations that are in demand today stem from. So you could scrape Instagram. You can get Instagram posts, profiles, places, hashtags, photos, comments. You can scrape LinkedIn. You can get job titles, locations. You can get job opportunities. You can scrape TikTok. You can scrape various websites, x.com, so on and so forth. What you can do with these 3 platforms is basically limitless. You could use Apify to scrape Instagram posts, feed that into make.com, have that trigger an AI flow that then generates some sort of Google Doc or something like that. That Google Doc might be a step-by-step breakdown of everything that a person on Instagram that you follow needs to do to grow their business in the next 30 days or something. Use that to sell marketing services to them and scale. You could could use Appify to scrape open job listings that people are hiring for. You can then pump that into make.com, feed that into AI, have AI process the job descriptions and details, then use that to apply with like a super customized CV. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Just check out like the last 50 videos I posted for more on the opportunities in this space. But there's so many different solutions that you can build with just 3 tools that cost you less than $100 a month that it's kind of hard for me to state. So those are sort of like the toolkit within the toolkit. And then for now, just set up essential infrastructure. Set up like a simple web presence. Use like one of those super bare bones builders like Bolt.new, Lovable. Use something like Card.co, maybe Webflow, maybe Framer. I don't know. Just set up like a very simple website and then set up some very simple payment processing. And then if you have additional funds, set up some sort of cold email setup. Upwork's going to be difficult unless you're over the age of 18. But when I say students, some students are 18, 19, 20, 21, so you can give that a go. And then what you want to do is you basically just want to start talking to as many people as humanly possible, including people in your pre-existing network, your teachers, your professors, maybe your family members, your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, whatever, and see if you could piece together some social proof. What is social proof? To make a long story short, social proof is basically just something in the form of, hey, I saved or made some amount of money for a business or, I don't know, company or agency using AI. Okay, this is what like social proof looks like. I made $43,842 for a B2B SaaS company using AI automation. I saved $10,000 a month for a manufacturing business using automated CRMs. I added $33,829 a month in value for a B2B digital marketing agency using AI lead gen or something. So go find yourself some sort of social proof to that nature. It's going to be difficult for a lot of you guys to have attributable savings and or revenue. Don't get me wrong, I totally understand this. So if you guys don't have anything like that, you can also associate with businesses that are big. I don't know, if somebody in your network, one of your professors or one of your friends of friends or whatever has a business, or knows somebody that has a business that produces, let's say, $1 million a year, you could say something like, I worked with a $1 million a year business, or I helped a $1 million a year business deliver something. We're heavy on the implication here, but as a student, you kind of have to be. And then once you're done with that, you just combine all these, okay? You combine those tools that I talked about, you combine those niches that I talked about, you combine your essential infrastructure, your web presence, cold email setup, and Upwork, and then you just start talking to businesses. Okay, so you may easily find your first few clients just talking to people that are close to you. This might be people in various departments that you're a part of, clubs, events, could be your network. If you're in high school, it might be a little bit trickier, but it's still possible. You could just start sending cold DMs to people that are operating businesses that you feel like you know how to improve. Notice that you're also going to get a bunch of free or discounted software through educational programs. That's something that I should have mentioned earlier. But yeah, here's more or less your SOP. Choose your 3 target niches. Let's say you choose videographers, then you choose website devs, and then you choose coaches, let's say. Okay, these are your 3 niches. You set up your tools, you set up make.com, and you set up Appify, set up OpenAI. You talk to a few people. So you say, hey, can I use you guys as a social proof or case study? Can I associate with your business and imply that I've helped you do something? They say, yeah, for sure. Or, you could actually even start working for them for free to develop some sort of case study. And then you have something that says, hey, I helped a $1 million a year SaaS company save money with AI automation. And then, you have 2 maybe other ones. You build some sort of simple web presence. So I don't know, maybe this is just like a website. It's like a LinkedIn profile as well. Then you focus on revenue generation. If you can get on Upwork, and I'll show you guys what all these are in a second, then do so. If not, you can get on cold email. You can also send cold DMs. You can also do something like a community posting. Now, this is obviously the big question mark. Focus on revenue generation, Upwork, cold email, cold DMs, community. If you're new to my channel, this probably doesn't make any sense to you, but let me run you through what that looks like in a second. Okay, so there are a few revenue generating activities that actually work. The first and probably the highest ROI is cold email outreach. Cold email outreach is when you get an additional tool, something like this cold email platform here called Instantly, which costs as low as $37 a month. And what this tool allows you to do is it allows you to put together cold email campaigns that send to a large number of people without your direct involvement. What you do is you create these campaigns where you put in a little bit of work ahead of time, defining things like the cold email copy. That's what you're going to put in the actual emails that the client or prospect, I should say, receives. Maybe some assets. You get your audience through Appify or some other scraping source. Then you just send out a bunch of emails. And so if I show you guys what this looks like, you send out stuff like this. Then if I preview this, this is what's going to be arriving in this guy here, Armin's inbox. Hey, Armin, love Mamba marketing, also fan SEO, blah, blah, blah. I'm new to this, but, right, this is your whole pitch. You can write whatever the heck you want here, by the way. It is like completely wild, wild west in cold email right now. So put whatever the heck you want in there, whatever you think is going to make sense. I have a bunch of videos on like, the best and most effective copywriting strategies out there. Don't be concerned if you don't get any positive responses in your first campaign. It takes a while to get good at this stuff. But basically, this is where you just start sending large volumes of cold email to people using personalized information that you've scraped off them using Appify. And then, get a bunch of positive responses and book meetings. Okay. So these are activities that directly generate client conversations. Cold email is a great example of that. There's a couple of other things you can do. One is called Upwork. If you've never used Upwork before, what this is this is basically a freelancing gig platform where this is my profile right over here. You can set up searches for terms like automation. Then you can find a bunch of jobs that other people have posted where they specifically ask for, hey, I'm looking for somebody that's used the DiviBot platform. Hey, I want somebody to help me develop an AI outreach system for LinkedIn. Hey, I want somebody to help me put together an AI LinkedIn one, a Go High Level setup, Meta Marketing, GHL coach, Go High Level automation consultant. As you can see, GHL is a little overrepresented today. Very interesting. So what this is simply a platform where you can send a certain number of applications per day. It costs you a little bit of money to do this. Might be, $2.50 to $3 per application. But you actually talk to people that are like waiting on the sidelines with money in their hand, ready to buy. And now instead of having to thrust some sort of outreach directly into the void like you do with cold email, you do this on a platform where people are actually pretty qualified and ready to pay you. Okay. So cold email, Upwork, these are two really simple straight line approaches for most beginners. And then all you do is you just set some sort of daily minimum. You say 10 or 15 emails a day, 3 to 5 proposals, and then you just track it religiously over time. Okay. There are a bunch of nuances regarding things like how to do the applications, which I've talked about in other videos. So I'll make sure to link them in this video so you guys can access them quickly. One of them is a custom Loom strategy that works pretty well, but there are a variety of different ways that you could do things. And I'm not going to spend an hour talking about it right now, just because I want you guys to focus on the ecosystem more than the specific deliverables at this point. Okay. So here are some tips on how to do this quickly. Batch similar tasks together. So just do all your cold email work at once, do all of your Upwork proposals at once. This takes advantage of this psychological phenomenon called context switching, which is where when you go from one thing to another, when you go from sending cold emails to looking at your TikTok to back to sending cold emails, there's a little bit of a fixed amount of cost to that. Like your brain works a little bit slower in doing the thing. So if you want to do things really quickly, just send all of your Upwork proposals in the morning or after you get home from school. Then schedule revenue generating activities during your free time, and then have some sort of immediate notification system for when a client gets back to you. What I mean by this is what you'll find very quickly when you start an AI automation agency is that responses from clients that are interested in what you have to say are basically gold. And if you take that gold and if you don't take advantage of it immediately, you're pissing money away. So when you get a response from somebody that's interested, don't be worried, don't be afraid, don't think, oh my God, I got to get this right. Let me ask all of my friends first, take 24 hours to reply and get back to them. No, don't do any of that. Just respond to them like a normal person. Try and do so within 10, 15 minutes max. And they'll be a lot more likely to actually want to work with you, okay? What's the SOP here? Set some minimum daily activities. So up above, I say 10 emails a day, and then I also say 3 to 5 proposals. So maybe we do 10 emails and we do 5 proposals. Track your completion consistently. So just have like a little spreadsheet that shows the number of days in a row that you've done things. You could set this up with a calendar. Contact potential clients directly. So when you do your emails, hey X, I want to help you save Y. Some sort of money. Focus on booking calls and meetings because that's where the money is. Focus less on doing things like, communicating with them over text or over email. Focus on actually getting them on a call. That's the highest ROI way to do this. And then present your solution and then, close your deals. You don't actually have to create these from scratch with those no-code platforms that I talked about earlier. You should definitely know how to use these no-code platforms. And there's sort of a non-negotiable period where you need to get up and running, learning those Lego blocks. But I have on many occasions actually just given people the exact systems that they later went out and sold. So I published a video a while ago called 5 Boring AI Automations to sell for 1.5K each in 2025. This is a really good one to start with. There are a variety of other ones. Just check out my channel. And I legitimately have all the templates and stuff like that hosted on a quick little link that you can give a click to. And then, you can just download those and then use those to scaffold out the rest of the automation. So, focus on some simple systems that consistently sell well. What you'll find is that some systems are just going to sell better than others because they're more in demand. They're more specific to the niche that you have. And then copy some proven automation templates instead of creating them from scratch wherever possible. Show working demos rather than just describing it. Instead of just telling somebody, hey, this system does X, Y, and Z, actually show them the thing in action. Actually show them a video of you doing it. Actually get them on a call and on the call say, hey, you want to see something cool? Here's the system I built for a software company. Let me run you through exactly how this works. Keep in mind the software company could just be you. No big deal. And then, yeah, ultimately, when you position your solution or your system, position it based off of business outcomes. Don't do it based off of how cool the technology is. Don't say, ooh, this one uses make.com and AI, and we're using the send email module, which is calling this service, which is calling that service. Believe it or not, they actually care less about that as clients than the business outcomes that you're going to drive. Focus more on things like, hey, this system automates the email process, which allows you to make more money because we get to 10x the volume of cold emails that you're sending, something like that. When you are communicating during the sales call, focus on the following, all right? First of all, instead of doing things like, oh, my make.com system does blank, use language like this doesn't just link the apps, it eliminates 15 hours of manual work every month. It makes you $5,000 a month. It generates 15 booked sales calls. Also, use specific metrics rather than general claims. So people always say stuff like, this improves your engagement. Don't say stuff like improves your engagement. Say, this increases the engagement. This increases the number of people that like your post by about 30% on average. Emphasize the speed to implementation as a key advantage. So say, hey, instead of working with a big consultancy and spending 3 months to get a system perfectly programmed for you, we can actually do 90% of it directly in this drag and drop tool, and I can do it for you in the next 48 hours. From there, we can verify that it works. Once you verify that it works, then we can talk about investing more money and maybe building on a dedicated solution, but that's how you do it, right? Speed to market. And then frame the pricing against the cost of alternatives. Like, well, this system replaces approximately 1.5 staff members. So instead of you having to hire 1.5 staff members and then also pay 1.5 staff members, you can do it all completely automatically with this system for a low monthly rate. How does this actually look in practice? If you want a simple roadmap, then find a proven template. So I have a ton of videos that I actually give you guys all of the templates and everything that you guys need. Adapt the template to the client's industry. So let's say you're doing, videography, but the template is about coaching. Just go into the template, change the terminology and the language from coaching to videography. You'll be a lot better off. Then focus on business outcomes. So avoid things like, I'm going to use a complicated 3-step pipeline that involves make.com, an OpenAI call, some sort of webhook callback, and ultimately some hook management service to accomplish your project. And focus more on stuff like, this is going to save you $1,500 a month by eliminating one of your staff members and allowing you to take that time and spend it on something else that makes you more money. Then create a simple demo where you actually walk through the project start to finish, and then just price based on the value delivered. If you think that this is going to save them, let's say $5,000 a month, you can actually charge them something like, $2,000 a month to set it up and then maintain it. If you're a student, you can make significantly more money with artificial intelligence, with automation, and with simple drag and drop tools than most of you guys will ever be able to make if you guys choose that traditional path that I showed you earlier, get some sort of job and work your way up the corporate ladder. It's unfortunate for me to say, and I'm certainly not trying to push anybody away from a path that they might have committed to. I definitely don't want to. I myself went to school and finished school, but Lord knows, had I continued going down the path that I was going down, I never would have made even a fraction of the money that I'm making right now. And I also never would have had anywhere near as much freedom, never would have had anywhere near as much enjoyment in the work that I'm doing. I never would have met anywhere near as many cool people. So I'm very glad that I made the decision that I did. And I guess, wanted to share with you what a practical way to do that looks like in this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys got any questions about this, feel free to drop them down below. I'm more than happy to help. If you guys want to undercut or streamline that whole process that I showed you guys in this video, definitely check out Maker School. It's my day-by-day accountability roadmap where I show you guys how to go from 0 to 1 in just 90 days. And I actually guarantee you guys your first AI and automation customer within that period. If not, I give you your money back, assuming that you follow the steps and actually put in an earnest effort. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff. I'll catch you all in the next video. Thanks so much.